of you who are new to Wiki. So, Wiki is Women's India Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's a national business chamber for women, envisioning impact for women entrepreneurs, businesswomen, and professionals from all walks of life. So, it's also supported by the G100, All Ladies League, and Women Economic Forum, as well as the She Economy. So, some of Wiki's goals are to drive fundamental changes in governmental policies, laws, incentives, and entrepreneurial ecosystems to encourage and empower women in business, industry, and commerce across all sectors and fields. So, the Karnataka Yoga Council was actually founded on 21st June 2020, and some of the projects that we've really worked on previously, our petition to reopen yoga shalas after the COVID lockdown, Yoga Samvad, a conversation on women, wellness, and yoga. Parishraya, a gathering of women yoga teachers across Karnataka, video series about business of yoga, newsletters, and Yogini awards. So, our vision and mission are to just develop world class and globally recognized work in the yoga field. So, basically, we really are, trying to build a healthy community and ecosystem around Karnataka of people in the yoga and well-being space and empower yogipreneurs and also share all of the knowledge and wisdom of all of the lovely people that we have in the yoga field and to facilitate larger conversations around yoga careers beyond just what goes on in the classroom and develop scholarships in yoga and also raise awareness about all of the work done by men as well as women in the yoga and well-being space. And that's one of the main reasons we have our speaker series session every month, where we invite some of our really esteemed guests who have done a lot of work in the yoga and well-being space. So one of our speakers today is somebody that I really, really respect and look up to and feel inspired by as well. And he is Arjun Arora. And Arjun is actually the founder of Sarveda. And we get to hear a lot more about Sarveda from Arjun himself. So welcome, Arjun. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for such a warm introduction. And thanks for
Oh,
all the members. I mean, whatever the introduction you've done till now, thanks for all the members for inviting me. Yeah.
okay. And just a little more about Arjun. He's just being very, very modest right now, but he's a born genius. You give him any musical instrument and he'll be able to play it. And also, Arjun passed out of Indian Institute of Technology in Chennai and then took the offbeat route of not getting into, into like a desk job and staying there. But then he went on to solo travel around India and then did a lot of soul searching during his time solo traveling in India and up in the mountains as well. So we'll hear a lot about it from Arjun. So Arjun, our audience don't really know you a lot. So let's just play a short game. And I'm going to say a word, and you have to tell me what's the first thought that comes to your mind as soon as I say the word. Yeah?
Sure.
Ready?
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's just that it's a little bit it's breaking, but now I can hear you. Yeah.
Hi.
I don't know, if my stream is coming continuously or is it breaking?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to say a word, and then you tell me what's the first thought that comes to your mind as soon as I say the word. Yeah? Music.
Love.
Okay. Yoga.
Um, Life.
Travel.
Uh, Happiness.
Okay. Ashram.
Um, Home.
Books.
Uh, I I wish I read more of them. It's not a word, but if that works.
Okay, work.
Um, Discipline and play together.
Okay. Okay, children.
Um, Fun and responsibility. I'm allowed to
Okay.
do two words, right?
Yeah, yeah, can. Okay, startups.
Fun for some time,
Okay,
for the initial.
weekend. Okay, for the initial part.
Yeah. Then you say after that was weekend.
Weekend.
Uh, I used to look forward for weekends, but now I kind of blend my weekdays and weekends. It's not, there's no bifurcation, weekends or weekdays.
Is that because of too much work or life is just a holiday
No,
now?
because I think I lost that concept of, only enjoy on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm like, some days are like busy, but other days are I
Okay,
uniformly try to enjoy throughout and
okay.
work.
Nice. School.
Something I didn't connect with too much. School. Yeah.
Okay, Bangalore.
Used to be a nice city. It's there's too much traffic now. Too much traffic
Okay,
and it's a little
okay.
heavy. Yeah.
Lebanon.
Similar. I mean, it's an interesting place, but then it's got its own ups and downs.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. So we'll just begin. So, can you share a little bit about what yoga means to you and maybe a little bit about your story and your yoga journey?
Sure. So yoga is something that came to me at when I was somewhere in my college years. This was around 10 years back. Um, and basically it wasn't the asanas or the breath work, any of that. It was typically no, the way I got into yoga was because of the whole soul searching part, right? It was very entrenched with the whole yogic philosophy, which was a sort of a guiding light when I was trying to figure out, what should I do in my life. Because I had this conversation with Priya, very recently, but all through school and college and all of that, a lot of us just get into
Yeah.
that because of the society and stuff. So, at some point we all start questioning, what's our purpose? What do we, what are we here to really do? And somehow all of this got me into yoga. Um, so it was more from the antaranga side, which is the more philosophy side that I got into yoga. So
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, no, all of us do a little bit of soul searching, right? So, very, very important to just question why we're doing what we're doing. Totally agree. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about Sarveda and a little bit about the history of Sarveda and how did you come to, the point where you wanted to start something in the yoga and well-being space, and maybe a little bit about your journey before that?
sure. So basically, after I graduated from college, um, I was very sure that I did not want to go into any sort of established, uh, you know, career options or any of that. So, of all the kids who sit for recruitment, from IIT, pretty much everybody sits for recruitment. I was the only one who did not. I was very sure that I don't want to sit because I had done enough of schooling and then college, and I was like, I think I've had enough of this share of regimented and sort of learning where you're
Mhm.
told to do all of this. So at this point, I was sure that I just want to do what I feel like doing, and I had so many different ideas, but obviously no real experience on the ground. Uh, Most of the ideas did not have any sort of economic angle though, so it was about traveling and exploring myself, exploring the world and all of that. And I knew that to have you know to make all of this happen, I have to somehow back this up with some sort of monetary monetary income and all of that. So I But having said that, I've always also been very creative. So I always had these ideas for different sorts of products and all of that. So just after college, I was working with a few startups, and I was helping them make products, product prototypes and all of that. And every time I got, some amount of stipend, I would get that stipend, and I was off. So people were very scared to, skeptical to give me a stipend, because they were very sure that every time I got any kind of stipend, I'd be off the next day traveling. I'll be somewhere in some part of you know dominantly South India, be somewhere there, and I'll just give them a call that I'm going to be remote working. Um, so basically, I was working with different startups, to trying out different ideas, trying different things, trying to understand how this whole economic world works. How does the world in general work? How do I work? What's my role in this whole world? And I wanted hands-on experience. I wanted to really go and do this myself. And fortunately, my parents were okay, because for some reason, one of the anxieties that parents have is that, let him at least finish one good degree and all of that. And thankfully I did that. In fact, there was this idea that popped up in my mind, which was, let me just drop out in the middle. I didn't really want to finish my degree, but fortunately, some of my friends counseled me, and they were like, finish your degree. And I finished everything. And then so there was this this security with my parents, that the at least he's got a good degree with him. So, and that was a big security for um, I mean, for them, is, but it was like a fortunate thing for me, now that I can explore freely. So while doing all of this, I worked with startups and different
Started
companies.
your own startups.
I
Being
so this
very modest again.
No, so I started working with a few startups, and then after maybe a year and a half or 2 years, I started my own startup. I was actually working with physical products, and then I realized that if I work with physical products, I still have to be in an established place, right? I cannot still freely roam around. So then I moved to the online space. I was like, this at least gives me this opportunity to travel, and as I travel, I can stay in different places and explore and all of that. And when I say explore, a dominant part of it was actually I would stay in different yoga ashrams, or places for meditation. And I did not like traveling with people. I Most of my travels were just solo travels. I would stay in these different yoga meditation places mostly, but then a lot of other kinds of places. And um, all these questions that I had in my head, all this traveling would give me time to think about them, think about myself, think about life, and all of that. So this was the sort of journey of working with startups, learning on the ground. And then I started my company a couple of years down the line, which was into making websites and all of that, websites and a bunch of things associated with online services. And we did pretty well. you know s- Starting out, we grew. We were like 15 people in a span of a year, and then we collapsed in like a year and a half after that, um, because we would take a lot of different projects from different people, different clients, promising them the sky. We would be like, we'll make you an app which can do this, and then on the ground we had, all of us were like mid 20s and no experience, and we would just take projects and then just end up um, doing different finishing them to like different levels, probably not finishing them. That had a lot of impact in terms of how to really it gave me a lot of insight on work. What does it really mean to take up people's work and really do things honestly and properly? And this was definitely needed, because I needed this on the ground experience, and I did not want to work in an establishment. So there was no other way than to actually do, and then do things, and then figure out doing them completely. And
Yeah, instead of like an MBA, right? Like I feel that as well. Like on the ground work experience is so much more valuable. Even like when you travel, you meet a lot of people. So it's the same networking that you kind of do in your MBA. But then this is just like real time. You're learning as well as growing, meeting interesting people. So yeah.
yeah, and sometimes I'm always also a little bit uh, what's the word for it? Probably a little bit scared that I might meet some of my clients in the, maybe talks like this, and I just want to apologize because I took a lot of clients off. I should, so probably I should, sit down and just write to them that, hey, I really apologize. Maybe after 10 years, I'm 10 years too late, but but thanks for giving me that lesson on how to do things properly.
Oh, good. We all need that to kind of grow. So can you tell us a little bit about Sarveda? How did that come about, and what are some of the offerings and services of Sarveda?
Um, so one of those traveling journeys, actually, from the time I started my company, which was into online and all, I figured out how to, how the online system works, which is how does
Mhm.
e-commerce really work, how does Google, how does Google work, the SEO and all those things. And I was working for different clients, and I knew that this had a shelf life. Like, how long am I going to always keep making sites for some e-commerce things that I don't connect with? It's a good learning experience, but
Mhm.
eventually I knew that I want to go into I want to go into a space where I can retire into, right?
Right.
I don't want to get into something where I have, a lot of people, times when people think of startups, they have an exit strategy, which I completely don't resonate with, because if you already have an exit strategy in mind, I know that it's for making a buck out of that, quite a lot of money out of that. But I for me it was like, if I want to get into something, I don't want an exit strategy out of it. Um, I want to get into something because I want to get into something, and I knew that yoga is going to be that space, because yoga anyway deals with things
Mhm.
that don't have a definite answer. So this was a space that I would want to get into. I got into it, but I got into the commercial side of it first,
Mhm.
because obviously I
Right.
not a yogi, and I have quite a distance to walk before I can be established in myself and propagate things of wisdom. But till then I need, I have a family and all of that, and I have this experience of e-commerce. So I started with the e-commerce side, um, of Sarveda. That was one of the reasons. There was another reason, um, which was that I had met my wife Saja. This was around 2018, and this was in Shivananda Ashram in near Madurai. She was doing her
Mhm.
TTC, and I was there for like a few days, and I met her there. And then she was planning to start a yoga space here in Beirut. And the next year, I got like I basically I got a one-way ticket, and I was like, I'm going to be in Beirut. So I was here, and so that's that was some in some ways that was also my first um, entry into something of yoga, which was a yoga space. In some ways, she was actually starting a space which was having classes and all that. Before that, I was just yoga was more of a passion, but it wasn't really, there was no professional angle to it. But this sort of gave me that segue into how a yoga space is. And when I came here, we would go to these organic stores and flea markets to buy our stuff, and I realized a lot of the products that were both yoga and Ayurveda based were not actually coming from India. Very strangely, they were coming from
Okay.
Europe and US, um, and they were basically like Ayurvedic tea and this and that. It was um, this was another reason where there was this push that there needs to be Indian based products coming
Mhm.
from India,
Right.
from Europe, and yoga is from India. I think the government of India has this slogan, right? Like, yoga belongs to the world, but it has a home. So why not get products from the home all over the
Yeah,
world instead of it going somewhere and then coming back here. So
that's true.
yeah.
And then what are some of the other offerings apart from, like the sustainable products that you're into? Sarveda offers a lot more, right?
True, true. So, so basically, we do regular courses
Mm-hmm.
on things pertaining to yoga philosophy, sound therapy, another yoga, um, some bits of other wellness modalities, and some of the courses are just they're free, like Advaita
Okay.
Vedanta and all of that. These are free courses, um, and they're taught by very wise facilitators. So this is one of the one of the core things about Sarveda is to invite people who have a lot of depth of knowledge that they
Mm-hmm.
can share, and for some reason they're not in the online space, right? Like, in fact, I
Yes.
think they have a negative correlation. I feel like the more people get wiser, the more they get away from all these online platforms.
Yes.
So there needs to be this bridge which connects people, so that most of us can get to know about them. So I've invited lots of different people to share their wisdom on Ayurveda, on different things. You can actually check it. There was this, we started this during COVID time, and then there was this pause because e-commerce. Maybe I'll come to this a little later, but that needed quite a lot of focus and energy, and there was no way I could dedicate um, my energy to both of them. It was a little bit.
Right.
E-commerce is not that easy. Um, it's it's a different sort of world altogether to work in the e-commerce space, and it took me some time to realize that.
So, if someone's very new to the e-commerce space, but just like you is also kind of interested in yoga and wellness and stuff. So, how does one get into this space? Like, do you have any advice for someone who's new and just wanting to venture into this space?
um, One of the advice that, as I said initially, is that if you're getting into a space, any space for that matter of fact, requires a lot of energy. So if you get into it, it makes sense to be a space that you really resonate with. um, if it's just something that you feel is going to be a space that will just give you some amount of, say, side benefits, which is money, or some amount of fame or this and that, then I don't think that you should really choose a space because of those ancillary sort of benefits, because getting into any space requires quite a lot of
Right.
effort, energy, dedication, and you want to be in it. That's why you want to get into it. So that is the foremost sort of thing that I can tell anyone who wants to get into any space, right? Um, the time that I got into e-commerce, right, there was this whole, also coming from IIT, right? There's this thing with a lot of my peer group that uh, make a website and b- grow rich really fast, get all these investors and grow super, get big valuations and this and that. Um, so, and there was this phase, where a lot of these different companies were growing really big really fast. So people get also enamored by all of these things. But once you get into any space, you will realize that it's not an easy thing to get
Yeah, it's
into.
hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. So if it's about all of these side benefits, I think eventually life itself will show you that it's not going to work out. You have to be like, you want to be in it because you want to be in it. So that is something that
Right.
I
Yeah.
definitely.
So, a lot of us, for us, yoga is passion. And, I also have a job, but then I teach and I do a lot of things related to yoga just as my passion. But then you're full time into yoga. So, literally, you're like living your dream and you're living in alignment basically with whatever it is that you really love doing. how does that work out? So how do you balance like it being your passion and profession? And then also, how do you keep it sustainable? Like a lot of us, just do it on the side because it's not very financially sustainable, and you really can't do it for long term. So I really want to understand. A lot of us here want to understand, how is it that you've kind of figured out the formula? Like, what is it that you're doing, that you could share with us?
So there is no easy formula for this. In fact, to be honest, um, it might sound like I'm living my passion. It is not very true. Like I said, I started with having this intention of inviting different people to share a lot of wisdom, but that wasn't very sustainable. So I had to move into the
Right.
e-commerce, right, to make it sustainable. And for the
Yeah.
past couple of years, it has been a lot of e-commerce work, which is not, and a lot of the parts of e-commerce is not something that I enjoy. Like it's a lot of just commerce. Like you have to talk to vendors and tell them, "Bhai, this is not come. The quality is not good. Somebody is complaining that how can you? The packaging is broken." There's so many different things that keep happening. So there is no sort of uh,
Shortcut to it.
yeah, there's no shortcut. A lot of people would like to. It sounds very poetic that um, there's like an easy formula for finding your passion and profession and all that. It, first you have to find that space, but once you get into that space, to make all the other factors also work, which is that is it sustainable?
Yeah.
All of those it's like a multi-variable problem, right? You have so many variables at the same time, and for all of them to fall in place, it takes time. At this stage, right, I feel like now I'm able to like come back to that passion part. um, so there
But
is
the
no
f-
shortcut, but
right.
you have
But the
to.
first few years are always a bit of a hustle, right?
True, true, true. Because not everything is just going to fall in place. But once it does, then um, then things start. Then you can
Autopilot
start
mode.
doing.
Yeah.
You can start doing things. It's like a spiral, right? But it's like an infinite spiral. So you feel like you're actually coming closer to your passion, but then there's another spiral, and it keeps going on in loops.
Maybe,
That's true. Okay.
maybe you see yourself in the great Chakravyuha formation, and you're in the war, in the Grand Mahabharata war. Maybe.
Maybe, maybe. Yep, the whole life is probably like that, sort of a war.
Okay. So what is very unique about running a sustainable, business in the yoga space? Is it very different from the previous startups that you've run?
Yeah, yeah, very true. I mean, previous startups were about, just building something for someone. I didn't really connect much with it. So, for example, somebody, I'm just giving an example, one of the client wanted to create a website for selling boxed items.
Mhm.
Company was, called very similar to what it was selling. So it was just creating a store. Like, I don't connect with it. I'm going to make you a good store, but I know that I'll get bored after a point. I don't connect with it.
Right.
But if I with these yoga products, also with in the yoga space, most of my products that I'm selling are instruments because I like music.
Music.
So I connect with it, right? If tomorrow somebody says that this instrument is probably it's not really working well or something, I would be actually very interested to know why it's not working and all of that. So what is different is that it is something that I connect with. So I would like to spend more time. I wouldn't feel tired, right? There is there are like multiple ways of looking at work. One work is like the work where you feel drained, and the other work is where you feel sort of energized, right?
Right.
But that said, again, not every part of this work is something that I get energized. But I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to fill in. There is, part of running establishment is that you have to take up responsibility for things that you also don't like. So, it's not going to be
True.
100%
Yeah, and you
passion.
do have to have a lot of discipline, right? And that's one of the things that yoga practice on your mat also teaches you, that you can apply off the mat.
True, Very true.
Okay. Um, so one of my other questions is how has the response been from public on Sarveda? Can you
Oh,
share some of it with us?
see, people have, it's been growing continuously.
Mm-hmm.
This is almost, we are reaching our third year of operation. We have
Mm-hmm.
sold products to over 50 countries.
Okay.
From and the establishment is in a small town called Kolegal. Now, most people don't even know. In India, also people are like, "Where is this place, Kolegal?" Like, Kolegal also happened because of a very interesting reason. The first person who was working with me, um, he was from this town called Kolegal, and our first warehouse was in Bangalore.
Mhm.
And I connected with him well, and he said that, look, we need a bigger space, and instead of getting this big space here in Bangalore, why not take it to my town?
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of an apprehension initially because the whole establishment is just going there, but then things have turned out fine. A lot of people from their work, uh, people from Kollegal have now sort of an opportunity to work,
Yeah.
and we ship. Now we are selling in US, in Amazon, and in all the major platforms in India we're selling, and unfortunately we're selling a lot even on our website. So which is good, and we work with a lot of people, uh, in all tier 2, tier 3 towns is where we get most of our products from the south, which is from Karur, from all the way to north, to West Bengal, to northeast. We have we source products from probably 40, 50 different small towns mostly. So it's good, it feels good that we also work with a lot of people who have this potential to make good stuff,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're finding a space to reach out to the world through Sarveda.
Yeah, and
So
also providing a lot more opportunities to people in the rural areas, right? Which is wonderful.
true, true. So I'm actually very happy. This was not a very supportive decision. Like, people were not very okay with the idea of moving to Kollegal, but I'm very happy that it is in Kollegal. We have certain issues, like it's not the easiest place to move things overseas. Those are minor ones, but it feels good that it is in
Yeah.
a rural setup, and everything moves out from there. So it's nice.
That's wonderful. So when you were actually starting off Sarveda, were your family and friends supportive of you, getting into a wellness space?
I think the move after institute, I it was every 1 week I was giving them a shock. So by the time I was they were very okay with me just doing anything. Actually, my parents have always been very supportive throughout. Maybe because they understood that this is the kind of person he is, so he's always going to come up with a shocker and one. But my dad has been extremely supportive. In fact, he is even now the backbone of Sarveda. He is very much involved, in Sarveda, in a lot of things. So he's my mom knew that. She's very happy that she knows that this is the kind of path that really resonates with me. So she's always been very supportive. Yeah,
You're very
but this
blessed.
this very say a non-linear sort of path. I started making them used to it ever since I was a teenager, probably.
As a rebellious teenager.
Yes,
Okay.
but rebellious not just for not a rebel without a cause. The cause was that I wanted to feel, aligned with myself. So it was, yeah,
Yeah, just feel like be the free spirit that you are.
true.
Okay. Um, just reflecting back, if you had the chance to do anything differently, whether in your entire startup journey or what you're doing currently, what would you change? Or would you even change anything?
Uh, would I change anything? No, I actually don't. Honestly, I don't really dwell so much on what on the things that have happened, um, because I realize that what has happened has really led me to
True.
change. For example, I the whole rebellious part. There was this wild period that I was in for like a few years, and I was a little bit arrogant, on the arrogant side. But then again, because of the arrogance, and the way I spoke to people, it came back to me. So
Now
it
that
that
you're on
was
the other
another.
side.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was so it taught me a lot of lessons. Being this arrogant 20-year-old, trying to trying to do just things just for proving things. Anyway, I don't think I wish to change anything in the past. I think they really fall. Everything just falls in place. I don't think so.
Thank you. And then, how do you see the yoga and well-being space evolving in future?
Um, the analogy is like, think about it this way. Even the phone that we hold,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps evolving all the time, right?
Yeah.
The desktops that we hold keep evolving. In some ways, yoga, even the things that have been written 2000 years back, they still hold true. It's in some ways like, things that are very real and very true don't go through too much evolution. Everything in the periphery keeps evolving all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like yoga is like, the fundamentals of yoga, or what yoga really means, which is basically, to realize that, the self is nothing but the cosmic self, or the
Yeah.
Atman and Brahman are just one. All of these are like, are like golden truths. I don't think that, it's going to evolve as such. Maybe things might evolve in some ways, that, some asana practices, like, right, there's Ashtanga, Vinyasa, all of those things, but I think those things might evolve here and there. But I think the core of yoga is just golden truth. It's going to be what it is for the
Yeah.
eternity of.
True. Okay. At this point, I know our audience have a few questions, so I'll just open it up to the audience.
I can ask a question.
Mhm.
So, Arjun, you mentioned that you work with people in different parts of India and in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Um, like, what sort of people do you work with? Are they already established businesses, or are you working with NGOs or rural communities? And how are they inspired to be artisans in the yoga and music industry? And how do you connect with them?
Um, so I've worked with, for example, this time I was in this small town called Muradabad. It's supposed to be the brass capital of India. And when I went there, so I get a lot of the brass copper products from there. And we work with lots of different vendors. There are some small ones. There are, for some quantities, larger quantities, we have to work with some established ones. But I like to work with smaller ones. But the issue is, smaller ones sometimes cannot work with larger capacities. So we try to mix it. But very interestingly, this time, for singing bowls, when I was there, there was this person. He took me to, firstly, Muradabad is a very, very it's a it's sort of a tier 2 city, but it feels like a tier 3. It's not very developed. So anyway, he took me to like the inroads, and then inside someone's house, I climbed up like 3 stairs, and I found like a bunch of guys making singing bowls, and they were so warm, and the way they greeted, and they said, we make these things, and then they showed the kind of stuff that they did. um, and I was like, I really want to work with these guys. So it's pretty much the whole spectrum. I wish to work with more NGOs. I'm not working with NGOs. I started working with a few, but then I feel like this time around I want to work with NGOs. But in any case, even if they're not registered as NGOs, most of the people who I work with are people who are from these backgrounds where they really where they have this talent, skill, but no sort of established company and all of that. They can make very good stuff. So most of our items come from there. um, Most of them. Very, very rarely do we work with big companies. Yeah, it's very rare. In fact, even big companies want to also work with super big companies, in in that way. But yeah, but mostly what we work with is people who are really, aspiring to grow, and they don't have that sort of system. So that's the kind of people we work with.
Okay, thanks, Arjun.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Can you tell us about what has been the most challenging episode in running this business?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many challenging. At some point, I thought that every day was like a challenging episode. But um, this COVID time. In fact, COVID was not post-COVID. Is also the time when Sarveda was, in its initial days. The center space was locked, and that's around also the time that Ayan was born. Like he was probably maybe 6 months or 7, 8 months. And at this point was when a lot of things needed a sort of balance, especially you know things from the financial angle, um, also the amount of workload, and in the initial days the direction isn't very clear. I mean, internally you have a direction, but all the mind kind of confuses you, right? So all of those sort of distractions, uh, that phase was a little bit challenging, I would say. There were definitely peaks at that point, but pretty much the first 2 years in general have been, first 2.5 years in general have been sort of challenging. Yeah.
Thank you for such a candid answer, because I mean, as a studio owner myself, I know that it is not easy uh, to have a steady state of mind when you're running a business.
True, true, true,
Uh,
true.
I have another question. I mean, I completely agree with you that a lot of these products, including something like the other day, I was looking for Nethi pots for a retreat. And, there isn't a single, like the only thing that I could see was Sarveda in Bangalore. There was no other thing that, offered even ceramic Nethi pots. Otherwise, I have to go on Amazon and I don't know where it's coming from and things like that. So, what do you think are the ways that we can, support a homegrown brand like yours? What are the ways that, we as a Wiki community can help you in, because we are so proud that, one of us is doing this. So, can you think of anything that we can do to help?
I mean, thank you. This intention itself is very helpful. Firstly, this is itself such a helpful thing. Beyond that, I mean, I think if more people know about it, it's good. But I think people are knowing about it, and I feel like this intention itself is a very helpful intention. Everything that comes out of it is obviously going to be helpful, but having that intention itself is the most helpful thing that you can do. Can't ask anything beyond that. So, so yes,
Thank you so much, Arjun. I mean, if you can think of anything, we're always here. We'd love to help.
I mean, just tell if anybody next time wants to buy a Neti pot, tell them Sarveda has Neti pot
Sarveda.
or any other products.
Oh, that I've already started doing before this conversation. So now the next step.
Next step, we have so many. I mean, I'm definitely going to be in touch with you, and let's see. So many other possibilities. Let's see.
Hi, I'm Apurva. Namaste.
Hi,
Apurva.
Namaste.
I have a question. So, what would be your suggestion for somebody who wants to start a yoga online at this moment? What are the challenges that you would recommend that one should be mindful of before taking on?
What exactly do you want to start in the online space? When you
They're teaching yoga, concepts of yoga, because I think we do have many yoga studios, people talking about the Ashtanga, but more like you were saying in your discussion, there is more deeper stuff to yoga. It is mostly the mental part of your management that comes in if someone wants to get started into that space. Of course, there would be asana and pranayama as well, but what would be the things that you would say? What are the challenges that one should be prepared for? You've been there, you dip your fingers in it, and it is something that you would.
Yeah. So if you're very clear that this is something that you want to maybe teach, which is things pertaining to the mental aspects of yoga and all of that, then the way to go forward isn't that difficult. You have to basically create, you know, nowadays people use social media to figure things out. There's a lot of noise in social media, but you have to somehow be present there because that's how people will come to know about you. Like it or not, you have to have some sort of presence there. Um, the the entry barrier is very easy, but sustenance is which is going to be challenging, mainly because there are so many people offering so many different things. Unless you are able to differentiate in the way you present information, in the way that I mean, your own being, if it's if you're able to reflect that um, honestly, and people find that beneficial, they are definitely going to connect with you. It's just that finding anyone now on social media, like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
It is difficult, but the entry barrier is pretty easy. You just have to go online, you have to just do it. You're not going to lose out anything, right? It's not like starting a physical space. You don't have any rental, you don't have anything. Just have to have a page, put in something, and start it. But then how you go about it is where you have to be creative and unique. In some ways also be honestly who you are. So that is where you might face, if you ever face any challenge, it might be in that portion, not in the entry part, especially in the online space. No, you would not. um, Social media is the easiest. You don't even have to go and make a website and go to Google and all of that. That comes later on. Social media is where everyone is, so use that facility and just get started there.
So you're saying in the long-term sustainability, one needs to bring in a lot of creativity to keep the audience engaged. That is where the challenge is.
um, Even when I say creativity, it has to be like authentic sort of creativity. It shouldn't be the sort of creativity that is just for the sake of coming out as creative. Right? Because people don't have time now. Like anything that you put up, if people don't feel that it's real or if it's of any value, then people just scroll through. Nobody has time. Even the minds have been shaped in such a way. It's just, I think last 15 years, all of our mental states have been morphed quite a lot, that our attention span is now quite less.
Yeah.
I think the more real you are and the more, when I say creative also, when I say I think essentially, I think people who can really be themselves, right? People connect with it directly. Um, Obviously there needs to be so your videos need to be edited in the way that it needs to look presentable, and audio needs to be this thing. But the more real you are, the more people connect. The more persona that you put on, people are able to figure it out eventually. And I think also no one wants to put that persona for too long. So so I feel like I think that is probably the way to go. Like find the authentic voice and try to bring it out through social media.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Arjun. All the best to your activity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.
Any more questions from anyone?
I think Anjal, you're trying to speak, but your mic is muted, or you're speaking to someone else.
You want to type out your question, Anjal? I can read it out. Oh, ma'am, thank you. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. I saw your lips moving. I thought you were trying to ask something.
Okay. Then thank you so much, Arjun. Thank you for your time and thank you for the real and honest conversation. I know a lot of people like out there, like you mentioned in social media, people show it like it's all red roses and rainbows, but it's actually not. It's a mix of like everything. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of thought that goes into it, and you have to be very honest and authentic, which I really appreciate about you, and that's why I really look up to you as well. So thank you so much for all of your time, and it was lovely, lovely having you.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you everyone for taking time and coming here. Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Soumya. Thank you, Meda.
Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Yes,
Thank
before
you,
logging off, we
ladies.
have a very quick poll.
Yes,
So
let's a picture together.
Sorry, what is it?
Let's take a picture together.